Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. I like to theme my episodes, so tonight's theme, unique designs that were put on a guitar after the factory. And we're going to start this episode off right with a 1986 Les Paul Standard in a white finish, with none other than Johnny Bravo on it. I absolutely loved this guitar. I saw it and I was like, yep, gotta share that with you guys. This is like a perfect period piece because somebody who was born in 1986 might have actually been watching this show at launch in 1997, or at least have fond memories of it, so it's like that perfect decal to put on a guitar. Now, would I normally think, hey, let's put Johnny Bravo on my guitar? No, but you know, since it's there, it just works pretty well. But it looks like Johnny's answering the question, why would somebody want a white Les Paul Standard with cream binding? I don't know. Hoo-ha! But I suppose we should learn about these things. So in the mid to late 80s, there were white finished Les Paul Standards. Generally, when people think a white Les Paul, they think the custom because of Randy Rhoads and things like that. But these things, they do exist. They look a little bit strange, but there's a lot of people out there that love these things as well. The seller's photos don't really give us a really good side angle profile view, but here's a good one. It's just cream on cream. An acquired taste for sure, but it's something that's kind of warmed up to me over the years. This one looks like also has a modified pickup here. But I do want to do a little bit of clarification on here. He says he can take the sticker off, but judging by the fact that he's had it forever and now he calls it the Johnny Bravo, more than likely you actually can't remove that sticker. Because of you, you're now going to have a discolored layer of white finish in the shape of Johnny Bravo.
Life is cruel.
You pretty much have to leave Johnny on this guitar now, or refinish the whole thing, which would be a darn shame. But other than that, it looks like this one has also been refretted with giant railroad tracks, so you should be good on that for a while. We've also got Grover tuners replacing the Clusons, and it looks like replaced strap buttons. Some of these discolored finish areas might look a little bit weird, but that's just par for the course. It's the clear coat that has been worn off, not necessarily the finish. White Gibsons don't always age gracefully and evenly. So he's currently asking $2,750 down from $3,700. When that first came up for $37, it's like, all right, man, good luck. But now he's starting to get into that territory where somebody who happens to love Johnny here, like maybe his mom, will buy it. But next up is my favorite one of this episode. Look at this 1980 Gibson Les Paul Custom. When I saw Chicago Music Exchange got this, my heart sank. I have been secretly wanting to buy this guitar from the initial dealer that's been trying to sell this thing for over a year for such a long time, because I find the artwork incredibly attractive and skilled. I mean, generally, I'm not a big let's paint my guitar and pinstripe it guy, but this one was done right. I mean, just look at the majesty. Now, sure, they could have went hyper realistic, did a little bit more with the fur and the paint, but matching this with the awesome pinstriping, I was just kind of waiting Southside Guitars out on this one. I thought, you know, maybe after it sits for a little bit more than a year, they might be willing to take an offer. And that they were, but I didn't strike quick enough because it was initially offered at $4,650, and now Chicago Music Exchange has listed it for $4,720. Such an upcharge. Man, that makes me so upset. That just means they probably took a lower offer. But if you're wondering, how does it get from CME, from a different dealer, when it didn't sell here? Honestly, it probably happened at a guitar show because it's guitar show season right now. Dealers all get in the same room. Sometimes people also bring stuff in, but it's really just a big buy trade sell fest of dealers' old inventory that they're looking to move. So maybe there was a trade, maybe there was some cash. Because not only does it have the artwork, it's just a pretty darn attractive Les Paul Custom from the year 1980. I mean, generally speaking, wine red is not my favorite finish, but this is a nice dark one. It's got some decent wood grain. The finish is yellowed over just enough. It's not like heavily worn. You get a little bit of flamed figuring within the three-piece neck as well. Unfortunately, we do not have an original case on this one, and it looks like maybe the pickups have been in and out. It's either that or the factory was in a weird, goofy mood that day, but it still appears to be original. You've got December 1979 T-top in the bridge and a February 8th, 1980 in the neck. The next thing I see that's been replaced is we have Dunlop strap locks. But the one thing I'm surprised, two well-known dealers have been selling this guitar, and not a single one of them has noticed the tuners have also been replaced. I mean, just looking at that, you should know that's weird, but most people get thrown off because, we don't have any other additional holes anywhere, so I'm sure a lot of people might think that is original, but if you've had enough of these, you know these Mini Grovers were not used on these things. They were Schaller-made tuners. So whoever replaced these tuners, they did a good job because they utilized the exact same location. If it's not the exact same, it's very close enough that these extra little juts right here cover over the original screw holes. But yeah, this should have Gibson branded Schaller tuners on it. It costs you like, what, 150, 200 bucks to replace it. And it's a reversible modification, so not a big deal. But I've got to say, I think I preferred Southside's photo shoot on this one because it really brought out more of the wine red colored finish, showed you how aged the knobs were. But yeah, I think this is a cool piece. Not very traditional and a very limited market for it, but I think my daughter would like it. Speaking of Southside, we have another one from their inventory. So this is an SG Special from the year 1965. It's had a few slight modifications done to it. Namely, this giant big like stage store decal type thing. If you really zoom in, it says Peter Max, which if I've got the right guy here, it seems that's just kind of his art style. Nice vibrant colors, kind of cartoony, but not necessarily over the top. For me personally, this kind of gives me Beatles vibes, which apparently there might be some history there. But anyways, a very similar art style to it. So that made me think, somebody who's a Beatles fan might fall in love with that particular decal, but you might be missing the real reason that that is there. It's not necessarily just to make a statement. It's to cover up the holes right here. So this SG Special originally had one of these trems over here on it. Now the fact that there's actually holes cut around it almost suggests that the trem was over top of that at one point in time. So, oh man, what else could be hiding under there? Is there like a really extended Kahler trem system? I hope not. But other than that, I really love the look of these like mid-60s vintage SGs, especially the more affordable ones, affordable in quotation marks. They just have such like an old evil vibe to it. I like the way that the horns have been carved. Maybe it comes down to the pole pieces and the mounting screws being all rusty on the P90s with the black plastics over top of them. Maybe that's why modern day ones just don't quite look the same. But besides the decal on the front, I mean, nothing too special or crazy about this one in reference to tonight's theme. But this one sold for somewhere around $6,000. Now let's jump forward about 30 years to the year 1993. Just by looking at the headstock, we can know we're in the 90s because this just happens to a lot of them. Whether they didn't mix the lacquer correctly, or if humidity levels were too high when they sprayed it on, this whole checking phenomenon, it's just pretty common in the 90s. Sometimes as late as the early 2000s. Not all of them get this bad, but if you see a couple of them by your headstock, it's just par for the course. But no, here's what the body looks like. So it appears somebody took one of the golden era Les Paul Studios in the most desirable white finish, took a torch to it and some markers and some engraving and kind of turned it into like a Day of the Dead meets Tim Burton style type thing. I don't know. I'll be honest, it's not really my style, but it sure does look pretty cool paired with a Marshall half stack. I could see quite a few people wanting to play this thing on stage and getting compliments on it. I mean, this guy even has a matching strap for it. Well, yeah, if you really just zoom in here, it appears to be some sort of like a torch burn job to create at least this outer layer, and then maybe they just left most of that alone, and that might be a painting, not really 100% sure. It's got an interesting vibe. But I like the fact that they took the poker chip off, but kind of burnt one right there, just so the look is about correct. But it's not just the top that they did to this thing. I'm really surprised they didn't go full out relic job up here, but maybe they just like the mummified vibe of this already. But the back, can't say it looks as good as the front, but we've got a Wario diamond down here. Maybe it's in reference to something else, but you get a little bit of majesty around it. Some buckle rash, relic type stuff. Thankfully, for the player's sake, they left that area alone. And this one could have been yours for $1,400, but somehow this listing got suspended. And I can't really see why. I mean, somebody might have accidentally reported it as a fake or something because they thought maybe that looked weird and then they just never reinstated it. But yeah, that's definitely what the seller is saying it is. It also could have just been that he needed to verify his account. Maybe he's a scammer on something else. I don't know. His whole account's gone. Burnt up in flames, just like his guitar. Speaking of burnt up in flames, let's talk about this one again. I think I have an old rocker knot on this, or I featured it in a guitar hunting episode before, but I mean, just look at this thing. It's essentially a custom shop Les Paul Studio that has this burning globe graphic on it, being burnt by a match down here, and then it's just all flamed out, black hardware, ABR1 bridge, probably has other historic specs. I mean, look, we've got the black top hat knobs. It wouldn't surprise me if we had a long neck tenon. I mean, it's got the ebony fretboard and everything. Oh man, yes, we do have the long neck tenon. I wasn't expecting to have those photos in here, but it looks like we've got a very nice premium grade mahogany body with a maple top, even though it's being covered over in this graphic. Our serial number dates it to 2006. Nothing too much going on the back, but ooh, this photo shows us if we really zoom in, it does have binding along the neck, so black binding. And then we get to our headstock. Fight global warming. In the absolute worst font I've ever seen for something like this. They could have did like a Supreme Globe logo on here and then have fight global warming along there instead of saying Supreme. I think that would have looked cool, especially if they would have put it on fire up there, but this looks like I had to design it in 5 seconds for my video or something. I've always been terrible with fonts myself, but come on. I feel like they could have did better on that. So since there's no binding along the body, you could say it's a custom shop studio, but I don't think that's fair because those are real mother of pearl inlays too, so that kind of makes it a step above the rest. When the Made to Measure program kind of opens up a little bit more and they let me do some fun things, I can't wait to just make silly stuff. Like, I want an actual custom shop Les Paul studio. Nothing else special about it. It's just a studio made by the custom shop. Pointless reissues, and then I can maybe do crazy things like my April Fools from 2 years ago. But surprisingly, normally when I show people this guitar, they're actually pretty receptive of it outside of the headstock. It is a pretty decent design. It's the Al Gore signature. But speaking of signatures, what do we got going on here? We've got one of them melody makers with a P90 pickup, but not a wrap tail piece. It's a full-on bridge and regular stop bar tail piece. Now this listing punked me because it was like, what? Is this a Billy Joe Armstrong signature that I wasn't aware of? He's got his double cuts, a couple of semi-hollows, there's an acoustic, and his regular Les Paul Juniors, as well as the other humbuckered variation that we've done reviews on. But I wasn't aware of a melody maker. I thought, oh man, is this a prototype of some sort? Because, punk bands, they like to have cheaper guitars for people. It's even got a Billy Joe signature there. I didn't see a serial number at first, but if you change the contrast, you can kind of see one right there. We even had the design on the pickguard similar to his double cut. So I was fully convinced this was like some sort of a prototype, but then you read on here, no, somebody's just Billy Joeing it on us. So fantastic modifications. That's what I've got to say. It's definitely convincing and the finish looks great. But that one sold for around $1,100, which is about right for one of these models. Our next guitar takes us to 2011 within the Melody Maker collection again. We've got like a tree here with blue branches and red branches. Looks like some sort of a Schaller tuner here, but what I wanted to show you is the body of this one. So somebody has installed a vibrola plate on here, but oh my goodness. I'm just noticing this for the first time. For the trem bar arm, there's a crescent wrench. That's beautiful. I love it because they've kind of got a hot rod vibe going on here. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be a 99 or a 66, but it's race car vibes. You get your fast pinstripe. Even though not my favorite pinstripes I've ever seen, but it's like a straight up racing blue finish. You've got the quadruple layer pick guard here that kind of adds to the whole vibe. This offering's 10 times cooler now. I've realized that. But oh, looks like Schaller tips, but some different branding I'm not 100% familiar with back here on the tuners. But we've got a little bit of pinstriping on the back of the neck and on the back of the body. Man, this thing must have got pinstriped and then played heavily, where they just kind of scratched through all the paint. That's definitely well worn. Kind of reminds me of the Bahama Blue finish from the early 80s, but we've got some sort of a deep crack in the body. That might just be the seam line separating. I'm not sure. We'd have to ask the seller, but somebody definitely played that thing hard. And it was being offered for a mere $650. And to even out tonight's episode, here's this Plain Acoustic. There's no pickguard. There's no fancy designs. There's no Johnny Bravos, no Pac-Man, no Sailor Moon, no Chibi Robos, no Monkey D. Luffy's, no Mr. Rossetti. It's just a plain acoustic guitar. Nah, just kidding. There's got to be something special on this to be in this episode. Look at this. The Emmylou signature guitar here has a 3-leafed clover. You guys know me. I love my fancy Gibson headstocks, and that definitely matches my definition of something interesting. Now, as far as the rest of the top goes, it's pretty darn plain for an SJ200 outside of the fancy inlays. Well, then you swap it over to the backside. Bam! You just get flamed maple everywhere, including on the neck. 3-piece, a little bit extra heavily flamed on the left side, but you've still got flame on the other side depending on the angle. And then the further you go in this listing, you can see the flame on the sides, but then how How did he get this photo? It's the heel of the neck that says Emmy on it, and it's the bottom side of the fretboard. And then he has the inside of the guitar. It's taken my show to a whole new extreme. He literally disassembled it. I'm quite baffled because I haven't read the description yet. Maybe this is just like a template that he modeled off of this guitar. We're gonna have to find out. Oh no, apparently this was allowed to age 20 plus years before they assembled it. So I guess that explains why there's not a pickguard on it. Alright, Troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed tonight's wacky, zany episode, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care.